I've been in direct selling since 1995, and I've seen a lot, and I've talked to a lot of people. I made a lot of great friends, made a lot of great colleagues. It's been a wonderful experience. It's quite an interesting career for me being in direct selling. It's quite interesting indeed. It's interesting from the standpoint of the diverse group of people that are in direct selling. You know, we're really talking about a global community of 91 million people as just identified by the Direct Selling Association, DSA. And that's a global community. We're talking about a community that is roughly in 140 to 160 countries. We're talking about Australia, Mexico, Brazil, Canada, Korea, Vietnam. We're talking about a global community. And of that 91 million, 72 million of those people, distributors, representatives, are women. And it's a fantastic community of women. You meet so many different people who have so many different ideas. We're talking racially, politically, socially, business-wise, culture-wise. It's a very diverse and an exciting community. It's a great community to be a part of. Direct Selling Live is something that people ask me quite a bit. It originally started out as a social community, but I knew all along that that's not where I was going with it. What Direct Selling Live is really all about, it's about me creating an online television network that I really want to have in place once the convergence of television and internet comes together. I want to be ready for direct selling to really take advantage of that convergence. So from a direct selling standpoint, it's about entertainment, it's about training, even though training is not my big thing. There are people out there who are a lot more, they're much better at it than I am. You know, believe me when I say that. But I love to be able to use Direct Selling Live to really show the entertainment, really show the life and the lifestyle of what direct sellers go through. For instance, about 5 years ago, I started the first, I guess you'd call it like an awards program, the best of, called the Power 50, which has now grown to become the most powerful list in all of direct selling, the 50 most powerful, most influential people in direct selling. And it's really funny because when I first started it, people poo-pooed it. They said it would never work. And so with that, it has now become the list that people in direct selling want to be a part of. And the outgrowth of that was the Women of Power, the Power 30. And then shortly after that, what I like to call direct selling's Consumer Reports list, which is the 25 must-have items, and then going into On Air, which is direct selling's first news and information television show. And it really looks at the life and the lifestyle of the global direct seller. So what is Direct Selling Live? It's edutainment is what I like to call it. So who all is involved with Direct Selling Live? You know, I'm asked that question a lot because when you go to Direct Selling Live, there's a ton of stuff going on there. As I said, you've got the Power 50, the Women of Power, On Air. We now have Politics 2012, where we have different bloggers coming in and blogging on this recent election cycle. We've got the 25 must-have items. We've just got a ton of things going on there. And Direct Selling Live is part of a larger company called NeXus Worldwide Media, which stands for NWM Entertainment Group. In NeXus, there's Direct Selling Live, there's the 100 Million Voices Project, there is soon to be Direct Selling Live 360 Global, which is a new news and information source for direct selling, and my recent acquisition of MLMBlackWoman. The major person behind all that, that would be me. I don't have a business partner, I don't have any financial resources really to speak of. I have my ingenuity, my energy, and I have different people who help, like my son and his girlfriend who own Twin Hearts Inc., who help put together a lot of the films. In fact, one of the things that they were really instrumental in creating was the first reality show for direct selling called The Recruit, and we're going to be going into our second season. It's so much, and yet it really boils down to one person, and I have a lot of help from my wife, of course. I couldn't do any of this without her, which the stresses and strains that I put on the family in order to make this dream a reality for me, I absolutely could not do. But at the end of the day, it just boils down to me. I had a business partner before and it just didn't quite work out. It's not to say that I'm averse to having a business partner or financial resources, people wanting to come in and help. It just hasn't worked out that way. The 100 Million Voices Project was an idea that I came up with about 4 years ago. I got to thinking, direct selling has been around for over 150 years. If you look back to the mid-1850s when the Southwestern Company came around, and then mid-1880s, around 1886 when Avon launched, if you stop and think about that, how many people over the past 150 years has direct selling really touched? Not just from a distributor standpoint, but from a customer standpoint, how many people that we have approached. Look at that number, 150, 160 years. That is hundreds of millions of people that we've come in contact with all over the world. So the 100 Million Voices Project is getting those stories of, say for instance, the first contact you ever had with direct selling. I know my very first contact with direct selling. It was in Portland, Oregon, 1968-69. It's at my grandmother's up in Portland, as I said. And my grandmother was always fiddling around with these catalogs. And she sat in the living room at a couch that had two sleeves, and on one side was the Montgomery Ward catalog, on the other side was this other catalog I knew nothing about, but I did know she was constantly ordering from it, and every week she'd get product, and then she'd put her bags together and take them out and give it to her friends. I didn't find out till about 20 years ago that she was doing Avon, and she did Avon up until about 3 months prior to her death, some 4 or 5 years ago. So the 100 Million Voices Project are stories like that. My neighbor across the street really didn't know anything about me, but she asked me if I would come over and if I was interested in making some bread, a bread called challah, which is a very Jewish cultural bread. When I walk into her kitchen, she looks at me and she has this egg separator. She says, "Do you have an egg separator?" I said, "Yeah, I have an egg separator." She says, "Okay, we have to use this one." I got this from someone who was a pampered chef, and I've had it all along, and that's when the idea just really started to click. There are so many people. And understand, she's not in direct selling, she never has been, not even been a customer, she got it as a gift. But there are so many people in direct selling who've come in contact with this industry that there's a story behind every single one of them. So the 100 Million Voices Project is gathering those stories of first contact, friendships, all of those things, because that's really the history of what direct selling is all about. To me, it's not all about the product or the services. It's about the contacts, it's about the stories, the legacy that we get to leave. Direct selling today is in a very interesting place, and I mean this in all seriousness. This is a very interesting place. I think in a lot of ways, direct selling is at a crossroads. If you look at what has happened on the political landscape, as we look at direct selling owners from Melaleuca to New Skin to For Life, even to Amway, and now we're looking at USANA, we're looking at Zango, we're looking at Mpona V, people who are getting involved in the political conversation through donations of political parties that really thrust direct selling into the public policy debate. I think that's ultimately where we need to go, because right now we're still kind of sifting around trying to figure out who we are after 150 years, which we shouldn't be. A lot of people still think it's all about the products, it's all about the money, even though that's a large part. But at the end of the day, I think our biggest legacy will be ultimately left when we're able to look back and say, what impact did we have on the global economy and global social atmosphere? I think that's where we need to go. And I constantly push that envelope from a political standpoint, where I challenge the industry to do something to be greater than what we are. And a lot of that is going to be us getting into public policy debates politically, and public policy debates socially and culturally. I think that's where we need to go. And it's an uncomfortable thing. I am probably the only one driving that conversation. But I think that's where we need to go. And in large part, that has been thrust upon us by owners who are now getting into politics. It's up to the distributors. Where do we get in? Where do our associations get in? That's where I think we go. And that's why I say we're at a crossroads right now. Who we are, what we're all about is going to be redefined and need to be repositioned, repackaged. The whole thing just needs to be redone, and we have a golden opportunity right now to make some headway with that. On air, yes, it's a very challenging show. It challenges the basic construct of what direct selling is mentally. As I said earlier, we think it's all about money. We think it's all about product. But I believe we need to get into some major discussions on race, on religion, on politics, because as we chunk that down, we can grow through expansion of just those conversations. So for me, On Air is about challenging the associations. It's about challenging the distributors to think, to be more creative, to understand that we are better than who we are. I don't think any of us really believe we have delivered on the promise of what direct selling is all about. So because of that, I think where we go is to constantly challenge us, challenge the status quo. I've always said I've challenged the status quo. I didn't like bullies when I was growing up. I certainly don't like bullies now, so I'm like, charge, charge, charge. Why? Give me a reason. Let's debate this thing. So On Air is really all about that. But what's really, really cool about it, we have some of the top trainers, some of the top consultants, some of the top people who are introducing new products. They call. They want to come on Air and talk about their products and their services. So On Air offers a lot. We talk about some very powerful things, and we also have some great, great guests who come on air every week just about. Am I the most hated man in direct selling? You know, I gotta tell you, there are times when it seems that way. Because I challenge particularly associations, and I have a lot of friends in a lot of these associations, and I have a lot of friends in a lot of different areas in media, in direct selling, people that are trainers and are consultants. I am willing to step out there and challenge them to be better than who they are, because as each person becomes better, we become better as an industry, and it allows us to be a better service to the world. So because I do that, I've really caused some friction with some very good friends of mine. But I do it for a reason. I do it in the hopes that they realize that they can be better than who they are, to, as we say in direct selling, break your old paradigm and come to a new way of thinking. That's one of our tenets, you know, shift your paradigm. Well, that's all well and good when you're talking to a new distributor, a new prospect, but from a leadership standpoint, can we shift our paradigm? And because I really push people to shift their paradigm, at times it feels as though I am the most hated man in direct selling, but I do it for a good reason. And ultimately, I think it will help us go to where it is we need to be. How did I get MLMBlackWoman? Well, that's a funny story. MLMBlackWoman was started by a very dear friend of mine in direct selling, British Ford Hill, who's just an absolutely spectacular woman, absolutely beautiful woman, great personality. She started MLMBlackWoman about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even 6 years ago. She and I, we were having a discussion about, do I think and does she think, as we were kicking this around, could there be a site on direct selling exclusively for black women? Which I thought was, yes, absolutely. There's going to need to be those types of sites that are diverse to a particular segment of the community, with the understanding that at some point those communities will need to grow beyond just that particular segment of who they are, meaning MLMBlackWoman at some point will need to grow well beyond just being for black women. So earlier this year, I got a call from British, and she was thinking about making a change and was looking for some potential buyers for MLMBlackWoman, and she called and asked me if I'd be interested. Well, I've been looking at MLMBlackWoman for years. In fact, I coveted the site for a long time, thinking if I ever got a chance to get it, I would love to be able to put some energy behind it and see where I could ultimately take it. And so when she called, it only took me all of about 5 seconds to think, yes, I want it. And then it took me another hour or so to try to figure out how I could get it. As I said, I don't have all the resources in the world. I don't have any financial partners, so everything that I do is really like rubbing 2 nickels together. But I knew that that was the place to be, and I also felt very strongly that there was only one other person who could actually take it over. if the British couldn't do it, there was only one person in direct selling who can actually do something with it and honor the community in the way that needed to be honored. So that's how it came about. She called, and I'm very happy that she did, and I'm working as hard as I can, along with everything else, to mesh all of that together. But I think MLMBlackWoman, that particular community is a very dynamic community and could actually create a model for other cultures who want to build a particular site in direct selling. The vision for MLMBlackWoman, well, that's, as I said, and when I talked to British, I thought ultimately you started here, but then you would have to go here with it. Not because so much that it's limiting in the fact that it's just about one race, but I think from a woman's standpoint, a women in direct selling standpoint, you begin to bring in other cultures of women into it, so you can have more of a diverse conversation. I think it's all about diversity. It's all about the conversation. Now, I'm in the middle of potentially changing the name of MLMBlackWoman, but before I did that, I asked the community, what do you think? And right now, overwhelmingly, people have indicated that they will be okay with it, but at the same time, you always have that group who doesn't want you to do that. As I explained to them, my background, my wife is white, she's Jewish, you know, we have multicultural kids, and you know, I've heard a lot of different things from, you know, you've sold out already, you of course you're a guy, you're going to change the name. But if you remember what I said earlier, I think you start here and then you go from here, because I want the voices of Hispanics, Latinos, Asians, the lesbian gay community. I think we bring in all of those women's voices, and ultimately it makes us a much stronger community. So that's where I want to go with it. If the time right now might not be the perfect time, but ultimately I needed to hear from the community. And so as I said, right now overwhelmingly they're okay with the name change, but I have to really, you know, kind of sift this around a bit and think when is the actual perfect time to do it, if ultimately I do it. But what I like about it is that the community got involved in the conversation, and I love getting people involved in the conversation. How do I manage to do what I do? I don't know. I really don't. I just see something and I go for it. I've heard some phrases that have really stuck with me, and one is, when you're 90 years old and you look back on your life, are you going to have any regrets? I don't want any, particularly when it comes to business. I'm going to go for it, whether I have the resources or not. I will just put all my stuff out there. Another one is from P.T. Barnum, I believe said this, you know, you be loud, you be as aggressive as possible, and you wiggle your ears. That's how you get people to notice you. Well, I'm the only black-owned media owner in direct selling, to my knowledge. There is not another black-owned media company in direct selling. So I'm in a space that is dominated by Networking Times, a really great generic training magazine, but more so from Video Plus. They are the dominant media source. And so ultimately, how does a black guy with no money, with nothing but energy and ideas and concept and vision, break into that space and be someone who is viewed important, someone that is viewed as someone serious? Those types of questions are being answered, and a lot of that had to do with me doing the Power 50, the Women of Power, all that stuff, where people thought it was funny. Now they can't wait to get on the list, and they call to see how they can move up and all this sort of stuff. But to answer your question, I don't know how I do it. I work on very little sleep. I know what I want, and I know it's going to take a tremendous amount of sacrifice on my part, but I'm going for it. I'm going for it as best I can, and I just do the best I can, and hopefully as A.L. Williams said, all you can do is all you can do, and all you can do is enough. And that's how I look at it. What do I want my legacy to be in direct selling? It's funny. I remember when I got into direct selling in 1995 or late 1994, and I was around some of the most iconic people in the industry. And I remember the conversation. I was at an MLMIA event, I believe it was in Costa Mesa or Long Beach, MLMIA, Multi-Level Marketing International Association. And they described some of the speakers as some of the iconic speakers. This person's in the direct selling or MLM Hall of Fame. I've always wanted to be in some Hall of Fame, and I would like to be able to rise to that sort of legacy, someone who made a huge difference, and after I leave and considered one of the people that blazed a whole new trail for what direct selling is all about and where it actually ended up or where it is actually going. That's really what I want. I also want to be, you know, I'm going to be truthful, one of the most powerful, most influential, wealthiest, and most inspirational people in direct selling. That is my mantra that I say to myself every day. That's who I am, that's what I'm about, and that's what I go after. That's what I want my vision to be. And I want to be able, as I said, to let people look back at what I've done, what I've accomplished, and say, he made a difference for us in a huge way. He really changed the game for us. Where'd the name Keeper come from? Well, I can tell you it came from a very good friend of mine, one of the top trainers in direct selling, Randy Gage. I was with a company called Envion International, no longer in business, great company, and he came on as one of our top trainers. And this particular year, I think it was 1998, we were having our huge company convention, and they were looking for entertainment. Well, my family's background is entertainment. We were one of the top singers back in the 70s and early 80s. We were Motown Records, United Artists, Warner Brothers. We were really doing our thing, and so I went to the company president and said, look, let me pull my family together and let us put on a show for you. And he liked the idea, and we did, and Randy's in the audience, and understand I was already a very well-to-do trainer, or rather a distributor for Envion. I was really making headway. I was doing fantastic. And I come off stage, and I'm in the hallway, and something I've never seen him do. Randy Gage comes up to me and he looks at me and he says, it's you. You're the one. You're the one who could take this company to where it needs to go. Your name now is Keeper, because you just keep on going. You just never stop. You keep on going. And I liked the name, kept it, and for the past 14 years or so, that's what people call me, Keeper. In fact, it's really weird to have someone call me by my given name. The only people who call me by my given name is my family. But for someone else to call me, it's like, that's weird. Everyone calls me Keeper. So that's where the name Keeper came from.